Welcome to the Women of Distance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Kramer. These are the stories of motivated women chasing big dreams in the distance running world. You'll hear from women who are crushing it on the trails, the track, and the road. These are not just the stories of women's results at the top of the sport, but the full story of how she got there, the challenges, failures, successes, lessons, and life between the miles. I want to thank SOAR Running for their support of the Women of Distance podcast. SOAR Running design and produce running apparel that does justice to the commitment and passion of runners globally. Their collections are designed specifically for running, high-performance racing, and also off-road adventure and endurance. Check them out at soarrunning.com. That's SOAR running.com. Women of Distance is proudly supported by OpenFuel, responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check out their products and their mission at openfuel.co and use code WOD for 20% off your first and every order. You can also visit the Women of Distance Substack to read more behind-the-scenes happenings, including how I'm using OpenFuel in my own training. Women of Distance is also supported by our good friends and fellow trail runners at Summit Roasters. Roasted fresh in my hometown, you can support the podcast by visiting summit-roasters.com and using code WOD15 for 15% off every order. You can find all of these links and codes in the show notes and know that we really appreciate you supporting those supporting us. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Okay, I am hanging out with Lindsay Allison today. Lindsay, thanks for being here. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. Another Monday.
Monday. It'll probably be Wednesday by the time this comes out. I'm really excited to finally be having this conversation. I feel like I have wanted to record a longer form episode with you for a while. Listeners, bear with me for a second. I feel like I've gotten into doing long introductions, but we are not just meeting you and talking about your story. There's sort of a specific purpose we're going to work to as well, with your story being a big part of that, and just how you got to where you are today. And where you are today is as a professional trail runner for Altra. We met last summer at a race that did not go well for you. And I think was sort of not the first race that had not gone well for you. You'd had a couple challenging events, and I think stomach issues were a big part of something you were dealing with. And I guess I didn't think much of it. We reconnected then maybe like a month and a half later for World Trail Champs, the pre-race interview. And you had a very different energy about you when I talked to you that time. You went on to race World Trail Championships representing Team USA on the short trail team, finished 36th in the world, and have really continued this like wild trajectory over the past several races that you have shown up to do. I'll highlight those in just a second. But the last time that we talked, you mentioned that when we had met over the summer and were going through a handful of challenging races, you circled back and sort of mentioned that you'd been dealing with some health issues, some mental health issues, and had taken the time to dig in and work on those things and work through those things. And not knowing that all of that was going on behind the scenes, you have developed into this like baller racing schedule that you have just really nailed. I want to come back and highlight these now. Like 2 weeks after World Trail Champs, you ran the Kodiak 50K, was the UTMB final for the, I'm not saying that well, for the US. How do they?
US World Major.
Thank you. The major for the US. Yeah. Anyway, you were 7th at Kodiak 50K, like 2 weeks after World Trail Champs, or maybe it was 3. Then you went on and you won the, help me with pronouncing this, if you will, the Patagonia
Bariloche
UTMB.
80K. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. 80K. And then you went to the Austin Half Marathon and ran a road half marathon in 1:18. And then most recently went to the Black Canyon 50K, where you were 3rd female overall. Like the way that you have thrown down races and really done something since you have worked through and been dealing with those things. I think it really caught my attention, and I found it interesting and inspiring to know that you had sort of been working through something, and that coming out the other side of that is really tangible in just race results purely on the surface. But I wanted to dig in and talk a little bit more about underneath the surface. That's a very
Yes, for
long
sure.
introduction.
There's always so much more under the surface that you don't see. I think that's true for most everyone, so hopefully it's relatable.
Totally, totally. But I don't just want to talk about that. I really am interested in hearing your full story and getting to know you better as an entire person. So let's start at the beginning and tell us where athletics first entered your life.
Yes, for sure. Well, this might be a long answer, so bear with me as well.
I'm ready.
Um, so I was very lucky, born into a very active family, and so I think that's where most of my introduction to sports started. My parents met teaching skiing actually in Tahoe, um, at what is now Palisades. So there's like a lot there as well. But anyway, they met teaching skiing. So I was on skis when I was 18 months old. So that was kind of like my first endeavor into sport, and skiing has been with me ever since. But I I think, like, I was very lucky in that my parents wanted to expose me to, like, everything they possibly could when I was growing up, so pretty much any sport you can think of, I probably did, the exception being basketball because it was during ski
Mm.
season, so we couldn't do that overlap. But, I did gymnastics, I did soccer, I ran a little bit, I was on the swim team, um I don't know. I did trampoline. That's a sport. We can get into that. But yeah, basically, like, I got really lucky. I was exposed to a ton. And then I think one thing that has been true in my life is that I'm definitely a bit of an overachiever. So I never really let a lot go. Um, and I was lucky that I was kind of able to make that work, but I did a lot of sports through high school. A couple stuck a little more than others. So I did gymnastics through high school or middle school, high school. I skied all the way through high school. I played soccer all the way through high school. And I did cross country. I ran track. It was kind of like a thing we threw in there, on the days I didn't
Wow.
have the other practices, but, I really was just, like, a very active kid, I would say, and that was kind of my intro into sport.
Do you feel like doing all of those different things and a lot of those at the same time, was that like driven by a desire to achieve, or was it like you were really high energy and you needed to have an outlet, or maybe a little bit of both?
I think it was both. It was never put on like, pressured on me. My parents would say, like, "Are you sure you wanna do all this? This is a lot." And I'd be like, "Oh, I couldn't quit. I can't quit this. I can't quit that." So I think mostly it was just, like, I was an active person that just, like, wanted to do a lot of things, but I think I always struggle. I think it's still true today, like, I struggle to say no, so I think I was, like, you know, really enjoying all the sports I was doing, and it really didn't make sense, or I just didn't wanna stop. Um,
Yeah.
I will say, so basically, as I played, I kind of did everything, like, my friend has this saying that, like, she's the queen of mediocrity. Like, I kinda wanna say that's a little bit of what my experience was, because you can't go all in when you're doing 100 things.
Right.
So I, like, did gymnastics. I ended up getting an injury when I was young, so I actually transitioned to trampoline, which is an Olympic sport. So I
Yeah.
actually did trampoline for the most of my, like, middle school, high school type experience. So that kind of was one big one. I played club soccer, but I played, like, the second level of club soccer.
Mm.
And then skiing was a big one. And but the other part of my story is that I was, like, a very driven kid academically growing up, and so, something that was also going on was, like, in skiing was probably my best sport, honestly, like, my capability was the best there, and so some coaches had asked, like, my parents, "Do you wanna move to Tahoe?" 'Cause we lived in the Bay Area, so we would drive to Tahoe every single weekend growing up. It was so much. I really don't know how my parents did all this. they are to they get so much credit for like everything I was able to do growing up. But they would ask my parents, do you want to move up here? Like, I think you should move to Tahoe. I think she should, commit to skiing. But I really felt like, no, I could never leave my school. I care so much more about my academics than sport, which is kind of
Mm.
ironic, like ending up where I am today. But that was something that really mattered to me. So I feel like a lot of my doing everything was more of just like, oh, I want to be engaged in all these different sports. But I still really cared about school kind of as like the top thing really growing up. But just loved being outside is kind of the main thing, I think.
Hey, folks, quick interruption to make sure to say thank you to Open Fuel for supporting the Women of Distance podcast. Open Fuel is responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check them out at openfuel.co. Right now, I'm loving their Ultra Fuel drink mix with 60 grams of carbs and 500 milligrams of sodium all in one serving. Soon, they'll also be adding a gel mix to their product lineup. Again, check them out at openfuel.co and use code WOD to get 20% off your order every time and support the podcast at the same time. Find the link and the code in the show notes. Yeah, I love that. Okay, I was going to ask, the phrase that came to my mind was jack of all trades and master of none. You
Yes.
can be really good at a lot of things, or you can focus in and be really good at a one thing. Sounds like academics was that thing for you. Um, Maybe elaborate a little bit on that and what sort of things on the academic side were capturing your interest and how that then led your path both through high school and into collegiate pursuits.
Yeah. So I would say there wasn't like anything in academics that was like particularly caught my attention. It was more just like
Okay.
I really cared about school and I really cared about doing well in school. And so I was just like very driven in that part of my life. So I think like a big part of that was where I grew up. It was really common to go to private high schools, like to private school, that type of thing. So like a big focus of mine was like getting into this high school that I really wanted to get into. And then once I did that, it was like, okay, how do you prepare yourself to get into a good college? And when you're in some of those higher pressure high school experiences, like everything is sort of focused on getting into college. So I
Mhm.
think that was just like more of my experience and less about like getting really good at a sport. It was more about like, how do you get really good at like being good at school to then go to college. So I would say it wasn't like I was really into debate or something. It was more just like I was really interested in like doing well in school.
Do you feel like that drive, like it's easy to see where your love for sport and the outdoors came from. Do you feel like that academic drive was internal and like really wanting to do well for yourself? Or do you feel like it was an outside pressure kind of situation as
No.
you're describing that setup in the area that you grew up?
Yeah. So I think I've always been a pretty self-motivated person. And I think there was never anyone like telling me I had to do really well at anything. So it wasn't like I grew up in a pressure cooker family or anything like that. I think it was really mostly self-motivated. Um, Actually recently I did this like personality test for work. It was like totally unrelated, but the personality type I am is like the achiever. And like that came back and I was like, yes, there's no other like word to describe me. I am the achiever. Like, so I feel like that just has been my identity and personality for a long time. So I think, um, and I do think there's something about, like when you start having success as a kid, you like feel it's sort of like the same thing as sports. It's like adrenaline or it's like endorphins really. Like you're good at this, you're like, "Oh, it feels good to be good at this." And so then you kind of like chase that feeling probably. So I think it was mostly that type of intrinsic motivation and like just desire to like push to be the best I could. And sometimes that's in sport. It is more now for me, but like at the time it was more about like um the school component. So I also think I grew up in Marin County in the Bay Area, which is like a bit of a pressure cooker place, to be honest. And I think like whether I felt that directly or if it was just like that's just what you did, I definitely think that you are influenced by what you're surrounded by. And when you're in a place where everyone is trying to, achieve the next thing, it's easy to just like get on that path of trying to achieve, I think.
For sure. It's interesting, though, to hear you say that reaching those achievements felt like internally made you feel good. And it wasn't so much for like a gold star sort of feedback, but it made you internally feel good. I think that's an interesting note that I'm sure we'll cycle back to here as we work through your story. um, so, talk through a little bit then, both in terms of sport and academics. Where did your collegiate career carry you?
Yeah. So, okay, let me actually back up to high school. I know
Okay.
you just pivoted me to college, but I'm going back. Um, so I think okay, so my experience, so from middle school, I like achieved. I got into the high school I wanted to. I was like fairly good at some sports, but not like amazing. So I got to high school and I actually really struggled in high school. So this is kind of where my like
Mm,
mental health situation started,
hmm.
which we'll come back to later. But I wanted to say it now because I think it's all related. So I think, and I don't have like a perfect answer for why any of this happened. So this is a lot of me just kind of guessing at this point, but I think I went into high school and I had really established I had like this identity in middle school, right? Like I was pretty good at things. Like I had this like good situation set up for myself. And I think I probably felt like, oh no, I have to rebuild it. Going to high school, like
Hmm.
starting over in a new place. Um, and I think it really got to me. And I don't think I couldn't have told you this then. Like there was I wasn't
Yeah.
internalizing any of this, but it turned into like a very bad eating disorder. And so I I say that because it really did define a lot of my high school experience. I was hospitalized. I feel like I kind of got through that, but never fully recovered. Like I was in this healthy-ish state, but um I like joined I so my that was my freshman year. So it was kind of like a wash in terms of athletics really. But then like sophomore through senior year, I made the varsity soccer team and I was on the cross country team my junior and senior years. But I was kind of in this like I was in and out of like being healthy, being not healthy. And so I would get sidelined a lot from sports. And so I think I never really had that like high school sport experience that would have like propelled me into a natural like college experience.
Hmm.
Now that's to say like I actually did have a great high school experience and like that was part of my high school experience, but I think I still like really ended up thriving in academics, which was great. I did play soccer like some of the time, most of the time. I did run some of the time, and I do think that's where my love of running actually kind of started. So I was really lucky. Our school was like a mile from the trails by Mount Tam. And so that was
Hmm.
kind of my first introduction into like, oh, this is trail running. Oh my gosh, I get to, when I was young, I would hike these trails. And now all of a sudden I was like, oh, you can connect this and this. Like, that's so cool. So like in the good times of high school, I feel like that's where I really started to like understand why I loved some of these sports. But my high school experience was definitely uh riddled with some hard times as well. Um, so well, I can pause there for a second. That was my
Well,
high school.
it's just interesting to hear that that's where trail also began to enter your life. Do you feel like that was maybe a sort of way to find freedom that is not so rigid and controlled and
Yeah, definitely.
focused?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. I think also so the cross country team was a pretty tight knit group of people. And I think also just like finding like minded people who loved the outdoors. I feel like when you run with people, and you chat when you run, you get this like level of connection that you don't find in everyday life. So I felt like, in terms of my friendships, they were much deeper. I'm still friends with like many of the girls on that team today. And I think that's totally a testament to trail and just running in general. So I think like having that outlet of having this like super close knit group of people, um, living in such a beautiful place, like feeling like a little bit of an escape from like the pressure of school or whatever it is, was super important to me. That's also how I learned about ultra running my senior year of high school. We did this like pre-season camp, and Alex Varner, who maybe some people will know, it lives in Marin, and he actually went to my high school 10 years before I did. And so
Oh,
he
wow.
came
Okay.
as like this guest coach to this preseason camp. And I think it was like his first year doing Western or something. And I was like so infatuated by him. Like I clung on to him this whole week. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like you run how long? Like that's so crazy. Like I think it was kind of the first time there was ever a sport that I felt like, oh my gosh, this like connects with me so deeply. Like I would love to be, like, maybe in the current state, I was like, I can't do this, but like, I would love to be able to run for 5 hours, for 10 hours, for like whatever that was. And so, yeah, I always attribute a lot of my like initial spark of ultra running to Alex. We're still friends, which is fun, but, that was kind of, it's like a very interesting story. I feel like where it was like this really hard time in my life, but I also found this really lovely thing, but like I also couldn't do it all the time. So it was like this really interesting dynamic of like a ton of things happening at once.
Totally. That's really, I noticed as I was looking back in your history that you really started quite young in terms of, and especially at the time, trail and ultra running was maybe something that was people came into a little bit later, at least than you did. We'll come to that part though. Talk a little bit about the recovery process in both your mental health and the eating disorder. It sounds like, correct me if I'm interpreting this wrong, maybe you were kind of doing just enough to keep the alarm bells down and be able to get by. Was there ever a point that you feel like you were able to kind of address that head on? And what was that process like?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was keeping the alarm bells at bay, though not always successfully. But I would say the transition for me happened in college, actually.
Okay.
So um, I went to Stanford. I think my freshman year was actually like a really, I wouldn't say a rude awakening, but it was an awakening of some sort for me because, um, I think again, like the same process happened. You're like reestablishing yourself.
Hmm.
You have to make all new friends. You're like doing this whole new thing. Um, and I I think I was very stressed, probably subconsciously, and I don't know, every part of consciously. Um, and I started getting heart palpitations. I promise I will answer your question. This is all related. But
Yeah, I
so basically like that scared me to death. I thought I was like, cuz um this is another tangent that we won't go down, but like I feel like the way my eating disorder was treated was not good. Like I
mm,
don't think it was healthy. I think it was a lot of fear mongering. It was a lot of like you're going to die. Like it was not a positive experience for me at all. And I think that caused when I started getting heart palpitations this like visceral
excuse me,
fear
sorry.
of death, really. I thought like, "Oh my gosh, this is like me hurting myself." At the time I was like I was stable. I was in this same like the thing you described where I was like getting by. But it really triggered something in me that like scared me pretty badly. Um, and honestly, I know this is not a normal experience for people. Like it was an instant flip of a switch for me. Like
Mm,
once that started happening, I like just changed everything. Like all of a sudden, I was fine. And I know that's like very hard to like that's so odd. Like that I don't think that happens to very many people, but I think I was like scared so badly that um I just I was fine. I was like, okay, I need to eat. Like this needs to change.
to let
And it
go.
really
Yeah.
did. And it wasn't perfect, but I do think like but that was a pretty big like eye-opening experience for me. And then I would say, um, that's where we come back to trail a little bit, which is that, um, so freshman and sophomore year, I was still in this like, need to do well at school. I need to like still like succeed. Eating disorder was like definitely better. there was probably like some remnants still, but like for the most part, I was really healthy, and things were really getting better for me. But then my junior year, I moved into this house. Stanford has all these like themed houses, and I lived in the outdoor house, and that changed my life. I met all these like-minded people who like cared about school, but also just wanted to be outside all the time. And I met one of my best friends who's still one of my best friends today, who, had run ultras like in high school randomly. And so we started spending a lot of time together, and we would like go on these big runs, and I was like, wow, this is like Alex Varner. Like, this is like what I've been trying to find. And I think a lot of the time it's hard to get into trail running without like someone showing you, or, going on, like, what are you going to do? Go on a 12-mile run by yourself? Like that's kind of scary in the woods. At least it was to me. So I think just like finding someone, who was doing it too was really helpful. And then that's where, like, coming back to the eating disorder, that's where like it really was final for me of like, if I want to do this sport, and I really, really do, I have to fuel. Like, you can't, it's horrible if you don't, you won't finish. You're in the middle of the woods. Like, you need to be fueling yourself if you're going to like succeed in doing this. And so I do think that was like another huge transition moment for me of like, finding this thing that I really was so excited about, and then starting to do it. That was really important to my recovery, I would say.
I I want to take a moment to thank SOAR Running for their support. SOAR Running design and produce running apparel that does justice to the commitment and passion of runners globally. Encompassing textile innovation, pioneering design technology, sports science, and the real-world experiences of runners. Their collections are designed specifically for running, for high-performance racing, and also for off-road adventure and endurance. And that's what I'm most excited about. Their trail line is specifically designed to be technical and durable for long adventures. It is high performance trail gear, blending innovative fabrics and detailing for off road resilience, function, and endurance. SOAR's innovation and ground up approach to product development results in a new way of thinking about trail running apparel. Check them out at soarrunning.com. That's SOAR running.com. Wondered when you started this story of those that transition sort of came at the same time. That was where trail running entered your life. One of the questions I had was, it seems like your eating disorder was sort of a tool for you as I don't know if a coping mechanism is the right word to use, but like when things got stressful, it seems to sort of be a control way for you to control something. And I wondered if trail was sort of like an outlet for replacing, like maybe replacing is the wrong word, but how did you maybe make that transition in a mental sense from when things did get stressful? You had decided this was not the way you wanted to be anymore, but there's habits that I'm sure that you developed along the way of when things get hard, get stressful. This is a thing I fall back on. Um, how did you make that transition, and do you feel like trails were sort of part of that coping process?
Definitely. I think I would say there wasn't anything like this exact thing I did that
Yeah,
changed everything, but I think like, um really just, I think so. At that time, like, when you're in college during the week, you're just busy doing school all the time. Like, I would go running, I would try to escape to the trails when I could, and then on the weekends we'd like plan these adventures. So, I'd go to Auburn sometimes, we'd go to Marin, like just different areas to run. And so I think just like having something to look forward to every weekend of like, okay, I have to prepare for this like big run I'm going to do. And at the time that they weren't as big of runs as we're talking about now, but I think just like having that, my brain works very much in like X then Y, and then, like A then
yeah,
B type thing. And so I think like knowing, okay, if I don't fuel during the week, or if I don't like do the right things now, this weekend's not going to happen for me, like blah, 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 that type of thing. So I think that was probably the biggest like if there was a tangible thing I did, that was probably it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. It wasn't so much like a replacement or a switch, but it was more a motivator
Yeah.
of this
And I
is what I
think
want to
like
do. I need
I
to
think
check the boxes.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think like as I was in college too, the first couple of years, like trying to find your place, it's really hard, right? Like you're away from home for the first time, you don't you meet friends, but you're not really sure which friends are going to be the ones that stick. And so I think also just like finding that community my junior year of um
Mhm.
like really realizing like, oh, this is the type of people I want to be surrounded by. I think I just felt this probably like sense of calm that I hadn't felt in the past. And like I think I always had this love of the outdoors my whole life, and but I never really knew how to like integrate it into my life,
Mhm.
especially in college when you're kind of like trapped and like, that type of thing. And so I think even just like doing trips on the weekends and like just like having activities and like things that I was so excited about doing. I think that was another part of it that just came from like finding this group of people or finding this like circumstance that was like really, really positive.
I love all of that. Talk a little bit about taking this discovery of this thing that you loved and that you were enjoying being capable of doing and transitioning that into a competitive sense. Where did you get the inspiration to race? What was your first race like? Like sort of take us into that experience.
Yeah. So so the same friend who had he had done like the rut growing up because he lived in Montana. And so I think I was really excited about this idea of like mountain races from just like his experience. And so we decided that what we wanted to do was train for Broken Arrow, um, 50K. And it just so happened that it was the day before my college graduation. So,
Oh,
like, I
wow.
did yeah, so it was like a funny it's become, like, so much more significant in hindsight, but it was just like, "Oh, this race looks so cool." That was kind of the era that was, like, 2017, 2018 when, like, the US Sky Running series was a thing. Like, I think Killian had come to the rut one year. Like, it was just it was like the rut, Broken Arrow. I think there was one in it's like Run the Wolf or something like that. There was like four.
Okay.
There weren't that many, but they were all really exciting. And Tahoe was pretty close to school, so we're like, okay, we could do this. So that was like my first objective that I ever thought of. I don't remember like how far in advance we were envisioning this, but leading up to it, I did a half marathon trail race, in Marin, actually. It was, like, really close to where I grew up. So that was, like, my first competitive trail race, and it went pretty well. Like, I was okay. I think I got 2nd. Of course, it was, like, a small local race, so it wasn't that insane, but, I really liked it, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, like, workouts. I hear people do these. I hear people like do things to get better." So anyway, that was kind of like step one. And then yeah, I just decided to like train for this 50K. And I definitely wasn't intending to be, and I wasn't competitive. Um, it really felt like I don't know if other people can relate to this, but like when you do your first 50K, that really feels like oh my gosh, I can do 50K. Like that's crazy. So it
Feel
was really like
capable.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was really like okay, I just want to figure out how to finish this thing type thing. Um, so I did my Broken Arrow 50K. It was like 52K at the time. Um, as my first ultra in 2018. And it was the day before college graduation. um, I think it took me like 8 hours or something. I was probably like in the 20th place range or something, which I think felt like pretty exciting at the time. Like, oh wow, like got 20th place. This is great.
Yeah.
So that kind of kicked it all off, honestly. And um, Broken Arrow always means a lot to me because I grew up ski racing at Palisades. So it's like it felt really special at the time. I remember just thinking like, why are we hiking up? Like there's this one part, this won't mean anything to anyone, but there's this like part of the first climb that's on this thing called the Knob, which is like one place where at Palisades we used to train, like the gates. And it's like not actually a run that anyone can do. It's like just for the race team. And yet we like do that in Broken Arrow. And I was like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Like, I just remember like going up all these things that I was used to just flying down. And it felt like so special at the time to do that. Um, which is nice in hindsight now, because I've done Broken Arrow like 6 times now. And like every time it just has that same nostalgia a little bit for me. But
I
yeah,
love
that was
that.
my first trail race.
How did walking across the stage the next day go for you?
I don't remember. Oh, actually, I do remember being pretty sore. But I think you forget when when you're at
Totally.
graduation.
Okay, so maybe fast forwarding a little bit, but it seems like really from the beginning you were pretty good at this, just like as results on paper. When did it occur to you that not only were you really like loving and enjoying the process of what you were doing and discovering, but that you also did it sink in for you at any point that you were pretty good at this?
It really didn't, to be honest. I think so after that, um I came to Telluride. I moved to Telluride after I graduated for a couple months. Then I moved to Boulder, and I lived with Andy Wacker and Carly Rempel, who are awesome. And a lot of people live there when they land in Boulder. It's actually how I met Ryan, which is a whole nother story. Um, but I think like, so I had done that 50K and I was like, oh, I like this sport. Like, and then I just started like putting races on the calendar. Like, oh, this one looks cool. This one looks cool. So I kind of just like started doing more racing just because they looked interesting and fun. But I think I was living in this house, surrounded by like some of the best trail runners there were at the time, right? And like still are. Um, so I think I always just felt like, oh, they're so much better than me. Like, I'm just this like, I was working full time. I was like traveling for work. I was like, oh, well, I'm just like the girl who's like trying to run and also work. And I'm not that good there. Cause I'd run with them and be like, oh, okay, bye. That type of
Okay.
thing. So I think I never really, um, I'd get like top 10. And so I thought like, oh, okay, I'm okay. But it's not like I was winning races or anything like that. Um, so I thought that like, oh, I'm like okay at this, but I really never assumed I would get much better. Like I kind of thought like, oh, I just really love doing these races. I'm happy to get top 10. I'm really excited to get top 10. Um, and, and I kind of just kept doing it. Like it really wasn't about getting better. It was more just about like part of it was about getting better obviously, but it was more just about like, oh, I really want to try this race, and I really want to try this race, like this looks really cool. So I think that was like majority of how I kind of like kept the ball rolling. And then I think it was probably 2020. I did way too cool, um like literally the week before the world shut down, and I got third. And I think that was the first result where I was like, whoa, I got like top 3. Like that's great. Like I'm so excited about that. So I think that was kind of my first like, I don't think I would say like, oh, I thought I was really good at it, but I thought like, oh, okay, this is exciting. um and then COVID happened, so that I didn't get to
Yeah.
race. But I think that was probably, in hindsight, like the first race that felt significant to me.
I think it's kind of interesting to hear you have these reflections in comparing yourself against world class athletes. And a lot of the first ultra that you ran was really a world class event. So you say, like, I finished 20th, and in your small local race, that might not feel like much, but maybe you did, and maybe you weren't really aware of the field that you were actually racing against and how you compared. I think a lot of people, when they start at smaller, more local events and are succeeding in those. You were succeeding, placing top 10 in competitive world class events. So it's kind of interesting to hear you say, yeah, I would finish top 10. But coming around to 2020 and the world shutting down, let's maybe take that step toward professionalization. You are now a professional athlete supported by Ultra. Where did it occur to you that that might be a path that is available to you, or did it ever until it became a reality?
Um, I'd say more the latter, to be
Okay.
honest. But I do, so I think in 2021, maybe when the world started reopening, I was like, I became a goo ambassador.
Mhm.
And that was like my first like sponsor, quote unquote.
Something, yeah.
Like something. It wasn't, I mean, obviously it's not sponsorship, but that was the first time I was like, oh, okay, I can be an ambassador. So that was a fun, like small realization. But I think it's hard to go back in time and really remember the exact mindset I had, but I feel like for majority of the time I was really just um I think I saw myself as like much like not at that level. Like I really you say like, oh, you got top 10 in the competitive fields, but like I wasn't close to first. Do you know what I mean? Like so it
Sure.
really did feel like, oh, well, and at the time, I mean, I do think, like you said, I started fairly young and I'm obviously not like an OG ultra runner, but I do feel like I've actually been in this sport for a while. I haven't been at the top of it for very long, but like I was there when it was earlier. And so like not
Mhm.
that many people were sponsored. Like it was, like it was a different time. And so I really thought like, oh, this is reserved for the best. Right. Like, and I think it was, for
Mhm.
a while. Right. It's obviously, I'm not trying to say that it's not anymore, but it has expanded. Like sponsorship has really
For
expanded
sure.
the
Yeah.
past couple of years. So I think I really just had this mindset of like, oh, I'll get these little ambassadorships if I can. Like it felt really special to get like a discount on goo, right? Um, and I, so I kept kind of doing those small things. And then, um, the next like big jump that happened for me was I joined the like rabbit elite team, which was big like a couple years ago. I think that was until 2023, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, so I think I felt like in those interim years where I was like sort of getting a little bit better, but maybe not like I still kind of felt like, oh, I'm okay at this, but I'm not amazing at it. Um, like I was never thinking like, oh, I'm going to get sponsored. I was more thinking like, oh, maybe I'll get like some free stuff. That'd be great. Um, and then I got I was on the rabbit team and that was the first time where I started feeling like, oh, okay, like um I can do this a little bit more. Um
It's
and I think
labeled as the elite team,
yeah.
and you really have to qualify. It's not the same as an ambassadorship. You have to be selected and qualify for
Yeah, so I think that
just
was the
for
first.
those who aren't familiar with it.
Thank you. But yeah, so I think that was the first time where I felt like validated as like, oh,
Mm.
I'm getting better at this. And then honestly, I think there was a couple people in that elite squad who were really like cheerleaders for me that helped a lot. I think like people would say like, wow, you're having the best year. Like you're having such a good year. And I do think 2023 was a pretty good year for me. And so a lot of people were starting to come up to me and say, not a lot, some people were starting to come up to me to say like, wow, like, have you thought about talking to like, you should get brands like, and so that was kind of the first time that it really started going in my head. And it was really just that like external validation, honestly, that,
Mhm.
took me there a little bit. Um, and then we can just fast forward to Ultra. Um, I I feel super lucky, honestly, getting this Ultra deal. I love Ultra. I think they're like so supportive. It's been a really, really awesome experience for me. Um, but like 100% of the credit goes to Amanda Basham on this. Like, um, and I love this story because I think it just like embodies women supporting women in the sport. But in like what was it, I guess 2024, I did McDowell Mountain Run, like the 25K, because Ryan, my partner, was doing the 50 mile, and I was like, oh, I'll just do this like a little short one before he's done. And I raced Amanda, and we had this like awesome race. Like we were right next to each other the whole time. We were like in high. She told me after, she's like, I was playing mind games on you. Like it was just this like really awesome race experience, and I think both of us weren't expecting to like really race anyone. Like, I signed up pretty late. I didn't know I think she did too. Um, but afterwards, she like out of the blue just asked me like, hey, have you thought about being sponsored? And I was like, I would love to be sponsored, but I don't know how to do that. Um, and she was like, I would love to connect you with the brand. And, um, So like everything that came after that was because of that conversation. And I just feel so grateful that like a woman was like willing to just like make that connection for me. It felt like super selfless, and I love that part of the sport. I think the community, obviously, we haven't talked about that part yet, but I think that's one of the reasons I love the sport so much, and that just felt like such a perfect bow on like what this sport is. That like that's how this happened for me.
I love that. It's one thing to have people around you telling you this is a path you could pursue. It is a different thing to have someone actually extend their hand and say, hey, come on.
Totally.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We did sort of fast forward through that. That's one of the key questions I wanted to ask you is what had you keep coming back to
Mm.
this sport? So let's rewind a little bit before we get into your career now with Ultra and with that professional support. What is it that kept kept you invested and kept you so curious and coming back and figuring out what you could develop for yourself along the way?
Yeah, I do think community is like a huge part of it for me. I feel really lucky that I feel like I'm connected to like many different parts of the trail community. There's the San Francisco, the Bay Area running community. I still go back to the Bay Area to visit my family a lot. And I did like I've done this throughout the years, like gone back and spent some time there, significant time there. So I feel like I have that like really lovely group of people. Then I lived in Boulder for 2 or 3 years. So I feel like I have that community. And then now living in Telluride, I have another amazing running community here. So I think just like I mentioned this early on in my like high school cross country experience, but I think that like one of the things that I love the most about running is like the conversations you have with people while running. Like you just get to a level of connection that you don't get to in
Mhm.
everyday life. And I feel and I'm someone who really values I like having like very close friendships, like not a ton, but like the ones I have, I
Good
really
ones.
value like having
Mhm.
really deep connections with people. And so I feel like this sport is like the perfect sport for someone like that, where you can get so deep with someone on a run. You can talk about so many different things. So I feel like um, maybe that wasn't why I kept coming back to the racing side, but I feel like that's what's kept me running for so long, honestly, is just like someone says, "Oh, let's go for this cool thing." I'm like, "Oh, I'm in." Um, so I think
Love
that was
that.
kind of what like kept me going in the beginning. And then I think I'm someone who actually I go back to races a lot. Like if you look at my ultra sign up, like I've done Broken Arrow 6 times, I've done the Rut probably 5 or 6 times. Like I kind of come back to these same races, and I think part of it is I love like easy ways to measure your progress. And so
Mm.
I think just like setting the goal of, oh well, next year I hope I can do this better. So I think having just like thinking of your life in like cycles of like, oh, well, okay, well, obviously I'll do this next year. And just like, how do you keep progressing toward that has been something important. But then I also feel like the races are this like awesome opportunity to see all those people that I've connected with in the different parts of my running experience in one place. And I think that's also the beauty of having done it for so long. I feel like I know so many people in this community now, and I love so many of them that it's like, you go to Broken Arrow every year, you see everyone, you go to the Rut, like there's like a group of friends that I always go to the Rut with every year. And like, I think just, um, it's almost like subconscious at this point. Like, of course I'm going to go back to the Rut. Of course I'm going to go to these different races. Like, part of it to push myself and see like how fast I got that year, but also just to like have those experiences and traditions going.
Mhm.
So I think that's been a lot of it for me. And then obviously over the past couple years, I feel like as I've had more success, there's definitely more of a component of like, um, I've been trying to branch out and do new races because I do think, I want to push myself to longer distances and just kind of like try to see more races, more experiences. And I think that's been a bigger motivator for me, but I'll always come back to the community part and kind of coming back to those couple races that I really love every year.
Where did coaching enter the picture for you that you started using outside support to
Yeah.
develop your training?
Um, I actually got coached pretty early. After Broken Arrow that first year, I got coached maybe like a year after that, actually. Maybe it was 2019. No, maybe it was 20, I don't remember. Something around 2018, 2019. I started getting coached. I got injured pretty promptly after that, actually.
Mm,
And so for probably like a year, I'd say the like 2018, 2019 year was a bit of like up and down for me. And so coaching was kind of like, it's hard when you're injured to really follow a training plan. Um, and then I had a couple years where I was like, I was technically coached, but was kind of just doing my own thing, to be honest. I wasn't a very good athlete to coach. Um, and then once like it was honestly after that year of like the COVID year, and when I started to feel like, oh, I got this goo thing, like I was like, oh, okay, I should be a little more serious. I think it was like 2022 I switched coaches and worked with someone for I think almost 3 years. And that was a guy from Missoula Forest. He's in charge of like the rut, actually. And he was awesome. I feel like he really propelled me. Like that was the time where I like really started improving. And I think just having consistency, especially in workouts, was like super key for me. Cause I didn't really do workouts. I kind of just like ran before. So I think having that was a really valuable experience. And then I switched coaches again last year. And now I'm coached by Rick Floyd, which a couple of people are coached by. And I have nothing but good things to say about Rick. I've like absolutely loved working with him. And I think it's like, it's nothing bad when you switch coaches. I think it's like sometimes you just need a change. It's like, but I think it's fun to like see the different types of coaching you can have. And yeah, I've been like super, super happy working with Rick. So
totally. You guys have quite a community that is developing there under Rick's coaching as well. I think it's funny. I maybe like a year ago, I watched one of Helen's running rants,
love
and she was talking about how Rick is not famous. Like
no.
someone called him famous, I guess, and she was ranting about. And I thought, like, but you guys are making him famous. Like his name keeps coming up as you all are rising in the sport and lifting each other at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, coming back to your story, talk a little bit about how signing on with Ultra and actually receiving that true sponsorship support maybe changed anything for you, either in the sport or your perspectives on the sport, or how it changed things for you.
Yeah. Um, I think that like a year in, I'm about a year in, and I think I wouldn't have said it changed much in the beginning. Like I didn't feel very different. Like it was really awesome to have a brand support. I felt like super grateful. I felt like my relationships to the sport hadn't changed. I think in hindsight, I would say it did change. And I think I felt a level of imposter syndrome, honestly. Um, because I still think that I struggle saying I'm like one of the better athletes in the US. Like I struggle saying that because I think that there's like so many incredible athletes that are like, I just don't think I'm there. And so I think having that mindset, and I'm working on it, but I really do think there's like some people that are really good. Anyway, but I think I had this like somewhat level of imposter syndrome going into the year without really realizing that it was like affecting me. Um, and so I think, it's like stressful when you're on the start line, you have a kid on. And I don't think I like fully internalized what that would feel like. So I was wearing the rabbit kit before, but like it's definitely a different level of support when you have a shoe sponsor.
Hmm.
And so I think that I underplay, or I just didn't realize. I don't think I fully internalized like what it was doing to me. But I think I have now, and I feel like I have a much better mindset toward it now. I think like I feel like last year was important for me. in a lot of ways. I actually feel like I gained a lot of confidence in myself, honestly. Like, I'm still not going to say I'm one of the better runners, but I do think like, oh, wow, I know, I just feel way more connected to the community now. I think Worlds really like made a big difference for me. I think, joining Rick's squad honestly made a big difference. Just like being more connected to some of the more elite runners in the sport has like, I think that's probably the biggest thing actually. Just like, I'm really good friends with a lot of them now. And then you start to debunk this myth that they're these like amazing, they're amazing people, but to me, like through
They're
my,
also human.
totally, like through my experience in the sport, I've always like, wow, oh my gosh, these pros are so amazing. There's this like different level of person. And I think just like humanizing them a bit has been like really important for me. And so I
Mhm.
feel like now I just honestly feel super grateful to Ultra. I really have enjoyed being on the team and feel so much for support from them. Like, none of the pressure that I was describing actually was from them at all. Like, it was fully me. And so I think just like having a brand that really does just seem super supportive is really all you can ask for.
I think it's funny to hear you say we have so many amazing athletes in the US and you're not sure if you put yourself in that category. It's true, we have a lot of amazing athletes in the US. One of the things, though, that I'm reflecting on as you're talking, when I started this podcast by saying when we met at a race last summer, the race didn't go well for you. I didn't think that much of it because when I think of you, I think you have been in the sport for a while at this point, and the sport is growing. It is getting more competitive. And I have watched you rising with that tide all along. And so you had a bad race, you had a bad race. It's going to like, it's just a one off, right? Um, and that's why it didn't really occur to me that there was really anything more than just a race happening at that time. But let's maybe go back with all of that sort of imposter syndrome and pressure that you were putting on yourself. How do you feel like that manifested for you then from a mental pressure and a mental stress into performance and physical result?
Yes. Um, so not to mess up your story arc, I think there was other the mental health struggle was actually not related to Ultra, I don't think.
Okay.
I think it was probably like a lot of things. I think your body doesn't know, stress is stress, like that
Mhm.
whole narrative is 100% true, especially in this scenario. So I think that was part of it. I shouldn't have said that wasn't it, but it wasn't all of it. Um,
Sure.
so the one like thread that is stuck from this initial story I told about the high school eating disorder, having those heart palpitations in college, and to now is that this like fear of death has like stayed with me. I hate
Mm.
it. I wish it didn't, but it has. Um, and it's been with me this whole time. It's never gone away fully. I get better and worse at managing it, I would say. Um, but that is something that I always have struggled with. Um, and I do think it stemmed from that initial like fear of these heart palpitations.
Mhm.
So basically what happened this summer, I think, I'm not really sure to be honest, but I think like all these different things kind of came together at once. I feel like there was this pressure of Ultra. I had just started a new job. So there's like this new pressure of same thing I described before. You're like reinventing yourself. Um, I think, I mean, it was a big year last year, right? Like there was the world's qualification. There was like, I was planning to do CCC. So I think there was like a lot of, and it was honestly the first year where I was starting to put myself more in that conversation of like, oh, this is possible. I don't know if it will happen, but like it might. And so I think there was that stress. And then honestly, I think what happened is, and this was yeah, so anyway, what I think happened is honestly in Hard Rock, this is a very random story. It's a very weird trigger, but I think this is what happens to people. In Hard Rock, there was a woman who died in the race.
Mhm.
and it really affected me. 'Cause, like, that's kind of my fear, like,
She was
dying,
fit,
right?
healthy. I think she was about 60 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, all those things coming together just, like, really affected me in ways I didn't expect them to. And I started, like, really struggling with panic attacks. And actually it happens when I run. And so, like, I'll be in a run and I just, like, I just get really, really anxious. And so that was kind of all happening at that time. And so it's not to say there was one thing or another, but I think all those things just, like,
Mhm.
led to this, like, heightened emotional state. And that's when you get panic attacks usually. It's like everything is up. Yeah, all your sensors are up, right? And so, like, I think any one little thing that can happen kind of sends you. So I was really struggling with that, and then I also think once you start having panic attacks, they kind of, like, spiral on themselves, like, then it's not actually a panic attack, I'm, like, afraid of having a panic attack, and so it's this,
Mhm.
like, really horrible cycle. I really don't wish it on anyone, I hope no one else has them, but it was something that I was really struggling with this summer, um, and I I also was having stomach issues. They were probably related. I don't really know. I think also I was taking some fuel that I shouldn't have been taking. Anyway, like a bunch of different things were going on, but I was really, really struggling. Around like July timeframe when I saw you was like pretty much the worst of it. Um, and so I kind of felt like I was hitting the like rock bottom a little bit metaphorically. So I started working with therapists. I'd been working with her actually, but we kind of like re-upped it. um, and we worked together for a while, like really trying, there's a ton of tactics you can do to prevent some of these things from happening. But um, I was trying everything and really nothing was helping. And so I actually went on SSRIs. I like started taking medication and it has changed my life. And if anyone's struggling with some sort of mental health issue and you're like thinking about going on a medication, it's like a scary thing. I didn't want to, like it felt like a little bit of a capitulation, but I I love it. I think it like really did change my life. Um so yeah, you probably didn't think this is where this story was going, but that's where I've ended up and I feel like even just like having something on board that like allows you a little bit more space and calm to like think more clearly. I feel like I've been able to like work on those issues way more. And there's just this like lightness about me that I don't think was there a year ago. Um, that has like really, really been like life changing for me.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. Thanks.
Um, Talk a little bit about you had this relationship established, but you had been kind of trying to work the problems on your own and figure it out on your own. What gave you the either inspiration or motivation to take that next step? And maybe along with that, also what inspired you to be willing to experiment with taking medication that you were against? What made you
Yeah.
be open to that?
Um, I have a simple answer, which is that my therapist said something to me that um just like resonated so much. And she said, um, because obviously we had been working together for a while, and I think she was the one that was like, we need to do something else, which totally agree with in hindsight, especially. But she said, think about it as any other problem. If you're iron deficient, you're gonna take an iron supplement. If you don't, you're being silly. And she said, like, you have like this is the same thing. Like your brain is not like absorbing chemicals in the right like in the right ratio, whatever it is. Like when you have a problem, you fix the problem. You take the supplement. And I know it's like a little bit trite to say it like that, but it really stuck with me. It's like, oh yeah, I actually have like mental health is like a real a thing. Like your brain chemistry doesn't always operate in the way it's supposed to, right? And so I think just thinking of it in that mindset of like, oh, there's something wrong, like I need to get back to baseline, that like convinced me pretty quick, honestly. I'm a very rational like um yeah, I like clean stories, I guess. And that was enough that I was like, okay. And also like the other thing that helped me was if I don't like it, I can just stop. There's
Mhm.
nothing that's forcing me to do this. And these medications are pretty safe. So there's really not very much risk associated with it. So I just did it.
I love that mindset of like, you don't have to just muscle through it. And why do we have that mindset? Like,
Especially like,
asking that question of yourself, like, why are you
yeah,
doing this?
especially when
Why not?
it was pretty bad. Like,
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
for a while it was manageable and but once you hit I think internally like when something has gotten to the point where you have to do something else. You can't just keep hitting your head against the wall and I think I was at that point.
So, elaborate on digging in and finding these solutions for yourself. I started the podcast by listing off this list of results that you have just like nailed over the past couple months. How do you feel like being able to get a grip on this side of your life then translated into your training, your performance, and all
Yeah.
that has followed?
Um so I think there's two things. One is just I think when you're happy and you're like you can recognize that you're happy makes a huge difference. Like, I think performance is tied to like your mental health, your happiness. So I do think I feel like as the summer kind of progressed and I was starting to feel better, like I just started realizing how lucky I was. Like, I get to run out my door into the Alpine every day. That's incredible. I have all these friends to do it with. I just was feeling super grateful. And I think that's number one.
And
And
able
then
to access that or
exactly.
identify that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part. Like a lot of nothing changed like about my
Right.
setting, right? But so I think that was really important. And then I also think in my like anxiety, there's always something holding me back a little bit. Like I described this like health anxiety a little bit. Like when you're going on a workout and you're like maxing your heart rate, I'm always like, oh, is this bad? And so I think just like removing that too has allowed me to push
Mm.
myself harder and like actually race. And because I feel like a lot of my past racing, honestly, for like the past 5 years, however many years I've done this, um, I haven't taken a like I'm racing to win mindset. I've taken a I'm racing to like do as well as I can type mindset. And that has manifested in like I chat with people. There's like so many friends I've made from racing, and I'm super glad I did that because some of them are really good friends now. Um, and then I would like turn it on at the end type thing. Whereas I feel
Mm.
like I have this new, and some of that I think was fear, like of pushing myself. Like, what happens if you, not necessarily from like a health perspective, but more just like an unknown. You don't know what's going to happen if you go too hard in the beginning.
Right.
But I feel like this year, and I actually think Rick has helped me with this a lot too, of just like, you have to put yourself in a position to try to win if you want to do your best. And so I think just like having a little bit more mental clarity and like new mindset toward racing has also been like really important for me. And I do attribute like even being able to consider having this shift in like race strategy to also just like improving my mental health quite a bit.
Hmm. I love that, how they tie back and
I know.
forth with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Lindsay, I have like 20 more questions that I wanted to ask. I wanted to get into talking about Black Canyon and but I am aware you have another meeting to get onto and I can't take your whole afternoon. Maybe we'll come back and do a part two to actually talk about some of these recent results you've put down. I do want to make sure that we talk about what you have coming up if we don't have time to revisit what you've done. Talk a little bit about what your season and your year is looking like over the next couple months.
Yeah. So the next month is a little bit TBD for me. I've been dealing with a little bit of a niggle. Hopefully it's gonna resolve soon. So I think my next race will probably be Madeira, um, 80K. And then I'm planning tentatively to go back to Broken Arrow because, as we talked about, I like going back to the same races. Um, I'm going to do Valderan in,
Okay.
um, where is it?
Spain.
Pyrenees, Spain. Yes.
Yeah.
It might be on the French side. I don't know. I'm
You
gonna
could
do
be right.
that, and then my year is leading up to CCC, so that'll be kind of the main goal of the year. Um, I am signed up for a couple other things that I don't know if they'll happen or not. I'm kind of leaving the rest of the season open to just see, like, how I feel coming out of CCC. But I've been eyeing a 100-mile debut for a while, and I'm hoping that that can happen. If not this fall, then sometime early next year. So, we'll see.
Okay, that was gonna be my question. I did see it on your Ultra sign up, and is your brain thinking in that direction, even if not that race this time? But it's on the list.
It is. I'm really just
Um,
I would love to race. The Bear is on my schedule. I don't know if I think it's 4 weeks after CCC. Um, I don't know if that's enough time. I do think it's a longer conversation that we can have another time too. I want to do that one in particular because the Hard Rock qualifier. I live in Telluride. Hard Rock would be like a dream for me someday. So part of me just like wants to get the tickets going. I think there is this, and honestly, if I wasn't sponsored, I would probably just do it. Like just walk it. I don't care. Just finish it
complete it.
to get um the entry to Hard Rock or the ticket. But I do think there's this like there's just other questions to ask yourself when you have like other um obligations, etc. So we'll see. I'm leaving the option open.
100-mile is a big task,
Yeah.
no matter how you approach it, even if you go walk it. It's a big
Yes.
maybe
Mentally,
bigger a task that
yes.
way.
Totally.
All right, final closing question that I have for you, and with the context of our conversation, it's a particularly interesting question. If you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It's a great question. I think so. I think we talked about like a lot about how I've been very achiever oriented my whole life. And I don't like that's just my identity. Like I'm not trying, I don't think you have to change that. What I do think I would say is that it doesn't always have to be about the result. I think growing up I was really outcome oriented, whether it was mostly school, just like, oh, I want to get the best grades, I want to be the best at this, I want to, that kind of mindset. Like um was really pervasive in my life. And I think what I've come to realize now is that if you're the best or if you're not the best, like no one cares. It really is about who you are. And I think it took me like a long time to realize that. And I think that's part of the reason why I struggled so much with various mental health issues over the years of just like pushing myself like beyond what I needed to, honestly. And so I think something about just like recognizing that it's never going to be about like how many wins you have, how good you are at whatever it is. It's about who you are. Like that's why people care about you or want to support you. And so I think just if I had come to that realization sooner, that would have been valuable in a lot of parts of my life.
I love that. I Listeners quote me on this. That's going to be the title of this podcast. It's about who you are. I really love that. It is so easy to, as you detailed very eloquently, get caught up in the results and what you're producing with what you do. But sometimes we forget to step back and see who we're building in that process.
Totally.
Ugh, I love that.
Awesome.
Lindsay, thanks for taking your time to talk with me today. Like I said, we're not done. I have more things I want to talk about and more questions that I have, but that's what we have time for today. Thank you for sharing so vulnerably of yourself and of your story and of the path that you have taken to bring yourself to where you are today. And I'm really excited to see where else you will be going, both in the season ahead and the longer journey ahead as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I know I've said this to you in private, but am super grateful for this podcast. I feel like you allow people to give their story in like a really lovely way. So I'm really honored
Mm,
to be on the show.
thank you. Thanks for taking your time.
Of course.